Brought to you by Kellogg's, the folks who bring the best to you each morning. A wide choice of cereals in the forms you like best. Yours from Kellogg's of Battle Creek. Now let's all play What's My Line?
And now, let's meet our award-winning panel of What's My Line? First, the well-known producer and actor, Mr. Martin Gabel.
Now we have the pleasure of the company of a girl who's just finished co-starring with Fred Astaire in the new movie, The Pleasure of His Company, Miss Debbie Reynolds.
Happy to introduce to you a young man we're soon going to have the pleasure of voting for his fine award, Academy Award-winning performance, Mr. Tony Perkins.
Please tune in to the U.S. Steel Hour on Wednesday evening to see one of the prettiest and nicest people in show business, Miss Arlene Francis.
And now, while Bennett is sunning himself, I have the sunny job of introducing perhaps the most gracious and knowledgeable man in our business, Mr. John Daly.
I must fully agree that Bennett is somewhere sunning himself, but I do hope he listened tonight and heard the gracious introduction I got. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm sure you at home will forgive me if I do say to a very full theater that we think all of you are very courageous and brave to be with us tonight, and welcome. Nice to have you here. We'll try to puzzle the panel with occupations which are interesting and have been brought to the theater by some very nice folks. And we will also have a famous mystery guest before the panel a little bit later in the program, and we'll meet our first challenger. And now let's meet our first challenger. Will you enter and sign in, please? James B. Osborne, is that right? I got my New York winter boots on, and they get my trousers get snarled in them all the time. Good deal.
You have the long handles to go with them, John?
I haven't got the long handle of this. It's very embarrassing. Now, wait a minute. Well, Mr. Osborne, where are you from?
I'm from Connecticut.
From Connecticut? Ah, well, it's nice to have you with us. Understand they've had some snow up your way.
Yes, sir.
Well,
I spent about 5 hours.
Did you?
Shoveling myself out today.
Well, of course, we don't have snow in New York. We wear these high boots because the...
Do you belong to any branch of the service?
Yes.
Where am I? Are you...
in the Army.
Are you at sea more than you are at land?
Yes.
Oh.
Are you part of the Navy?
Yes.
Are you... Do you have a very high rank?
No.
You do with me, Mr. Osborne.
As the oldest lieutenant junior grade, in-grade retired USNR, I have to accept that no. There's one down and 9 to go, Mr. Gabel.
Mr. Osborne, you are an officer, though, of whatever rank.
Yes.
Did you have anything to do with some special feat that the Navy has recently accomplished?
Possibly.
Has it anything to do with our space program?
No.
That's right. 2 down and 8 to go, Miss Reynolds.
Aren't I lucky? Oh, dear me. It has nothing to do with our space program. Well, if it's in the Navy. I have no idea what you do. Well, you're an officer. Now, are you in charge of a large Are there a lot of men beneath you in rank? You're in charge of a group of people working towards... Aren't you glad I'm asking this question? Because I don't know what I'm asking.
I'll give you a no.
You're going to get out? I'm glad. I pass. I have no idea.
All righty, Mr. Perkins.
You said you had nothing to do with our space program. Do you have anything to do with our missile or rocket program?
Yes. Possibly.
Yes. Do you have anything to do with the recent recovery of any nose cone, something of that sort?
No.
That's 3 down and 7 to go, Miss Francis.
So we can rule out the chimpanzee that made it, can't we?
Yes.
The ham.
Ham, yes. Do you... I thought somebody was calling me by name then. Do you have anything to do with the Minuteman missile?
No.
4 down and 6 to go, Mr. Gabel.
Do you have anything to do with any missile?
Yes.
Would I, as a layman, know the name of this missile?
Yes.
Do you have anything to do with the launching of this missile?
Yes.
Is it a missile that you expect to launch in the very near future?
Possible. Possibly.
For training purposes, I mean. Nothing else, of course.
Possible.
Will you launch it in the Atlantic?
Possibly.
Possible.
Will the purpose of this launching be to... Is it an anti-missile missile?
No.
No. 5 down and 5 to go, Miss Reynolds.
I love it when I get it. It's not an anti-missile missile.
No.
What is it? Oh, my soul. I'm glad I came tonight, John.
Well, I'm glad you came.
I don't know how I got here because I didn't even bring my shovel. I left California. It was 83. Well, I just don't know what to ask you at all. I really don't. Tony, you ask him a question. Tony's very good at asking questions.
A lot.
We discussed that before.
If you have nothing to do with the space program, I assume that my answer is yes. If I ask you, is it true that you have nothing to do with the transportation of a human being or an animal in a missile of some kind?
That's right.
Yes.
It is true. Well, gosh, it must be then some new missile that I don't know anything about. If it's the only thing I've been reading about recently is the anti-missile.
Well, I'm
missile.
sure if you all will just think about this and get your polarities right, the rest of it will come out.
It's the Polaris submarine.
It's the Polaris submarine missile, right. Now, I would say this, and Commander, I'm sure you would agree with me, because it is Commander Osborne, who is commander of the George Washington, which is one of our Polaris missile system submarines. And it was the George Washington, I believe, sir, that first launched a Polaris successfully and is the first fleet line submarine on patrol with the Polaris. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
John, it's remarkable. It's typical of the age that we didn't think of this because there have been 2 or 3 other incredible wonders of the world since we first heard about the Polaris submarine missile. Consequently, we were looking for this week's wonder of the world. By way of apology, that is.
Well, I don't think, actually, I think the commander will agree that for the layman, it's getting very tough. You know, you've got the Discoverer and Advent and Minuteman and Nike Zeus and Polaris. But the Polaris missile system is the Navy's missile system, and I must say that President Kennedy has taken cognizance of its great degree of effectiveness, and I think it's the only specific area in our whole missile program which has been ordered into expansion stage immediately because it is so successful. And Commander Osborne has much to do with this because the George Washington was the first submarine to take her out and to fire this Polaris from underwater, and it's one of the greatest sights in the world because she comes out under compressed air and hangs there for a fraction of a second, and then those rocket motors let go, and bam! She's just wonderful. It's a great thing. But I hope not.
When John tells it.
You made it pretty spectacular.
Well, it is spectacular because the whole sea turns up under it, and it's been proven to be effective and efficient, and it's one of the great deterrent weapons we have. And as a deterrent weapon, it meets every requirement we have, which is we don't want to have any trouble with anybody, but if they want trouble with us, man, we'll give them something they hadn't figured out.
We'll be ready for it.
We'll be ready. Commander, thank you for taking time out from your ship and coming to join us on a snowy night in New York. Let's see, the aftermath of a near blizzard. It wasn't quite a blizzard, they tell me, but it was a beauty.
Oh, it's
Thanks
real
a lot for being out
sunshiny out here.
Wonderful to have you with us. All right, now let's see what we can do with the second challenger. Will you enter and sign in, please? Nirmala? Mansukani, right? Is it Miss or Mrs. Mansukani?
Miss.
Miss Mansukani, where are you from?
I'm from Bombay, India.
From Bombay in India. Well, it's wonderful to have you here in the United States with us, where we know you're working now. May I present our panel? And now, Miss Mansukani, will you come over here, please? Do you, by any chance, have sufficient residents in these United States to know how we keep score on this
Yes,
program?
I do.
Fine, then we'll let the studio audience and the folks at home know exactly what your line is. All right, panel. Miss Mansukani is salaried, deals in a service, and let's begin the general questioning with Martin Gabel.
Thank you, John. Miss Mansukani, do you do your work outside of India?
Well, I think it's fair to say here, Martin, that the work which Miss Mansukani does could be done in India. She's presently engaged in doing it in the United States.
I see. Are you employed by a branch of the Indian government, Miss Mansukani?
No.
1 down and 9 to go, Miss Reynolds.
But you're salaried, so you work for a profit-making organization.
You work for a profit-making organization? No.
Oh, you
2
don't?
down and 8 to go, Mr. Perkins.
Miss Mansukani,
How
are
do they
you...
pay you?
It's non-profit.
Yes. Are you a performer of any kind?
No.
3 down and 7 to go, Miss Francis.
Miss Mansukani, do you ever work in the environs of the United Nations building?
No.
4 down and 6 to go, Mr. Gabel.
Do you, while doing your work in New York, ever send back reports to the people of India while doing it here?
No.
No, and there's a
No.
presumption of location there, Martin, that might not be.
Oh, I got an
completely
agreement on
exact.
outside of India, yes, and I assume New York.
No. But I would say it's in the general area of New York. But it is not done with any specific purpose of sending special reports back to India, right? That makes it 5 down and 5 to go. Miss Reynolds.
Do you wear this sari when you're working? Do you wear this uniform?
No.
That makes it 6 down and 4 to go, Mr. Perkins.
I'll make my first question more general. Are you in the arts in some way? Are you created with the artistic side of Indian culture?
No.
That's
Such a
7
good
down.
question, too.
7 down and 3 to go, Miss Francis.
Are you in some branch of the service?
Yes.
No, wait a minute. No, what Miss Francis means by the service.
How do you know,
is
John?
The United States Army, Navy, Air
Oh.
Force,
No.
Marine Corps.
Is that what I meant, John?
That's what you meant. 8 down and 2 to go, Mr. Gabel.
Are you in any form of athletics, Miss Mansukani?
No.
9 down and 1 to go, Miss Reynolds.
Well, do you deal, your services, do you deal with both men and women?
Yes.
And what you do, is this much nicer for the women, shall we say?
I didn't hear you.
Should I have said that?
What you do is much nicer with the women.
Is the service that you render, do you render this to women more than men? Shall we say?
Well, I would say both.
Which do you like the best? No, it's not a question. Do they come to you?
Yes.
Do you have an office?
Could be described as in a very general way.
Well, what do you do to them makes them happier?
Yes.
At least
Makes them happier. Mentally happier?
I guess both.
Well, she
What we
sounds
would like
friendly.
to think, Debbie, is that ultimately...
Is it
Wait a minute.
financially
Tony, you want a
reward?
conference?
No, I just have a good question coming up.
Well, we may never make
He
it.
can't wait, and I didn't know what to ask before. You want to ask, because
No, go
you
ahead.
helped me.
No, go on.
Well, the services, do they pay, no, they pay you a salary. Do you find that the people that you help are profited by this financially? The services that you render to these men and women are financially helped? Do you help them financially with your services?
Well, I would say that there might be cases in which Miss Mansukhani would agree with me that under circumstances which were particular, it is possible that one could come to a greater degree of economic well-being as a result of the service
Yeah.
which Miss Mansukhani gave.
Wonderful.
See?
Is that Hungarian, or what kind of... well, the services that you render are strictly, like, from behind a desk. You don't touch these people ever, do you?
I do.
I
do
do. So
touch
you'll
these
get
people?
a no answer to that. Tony, you want to try something? You
You're
have
a
an idea?
teacher, Miss Mansukhani.
What's
You
that?
teach yoga, do you?
No. Arlene, you have an idea?
Does she have anything to do with marriage counseling or people getting married? No?
No. Actually, this is wonderful. Of
I
course,
was
it's
so sure. I was just so sure.
But you'd all be so happy to have Miss Mansukhani's service. She's a dentist. And actually, Miss Mansukhani is a very special kind of dentist. She's an instructor in dentistry at Seton Hall, and then also works in the clinic at Seton Hall and does a great deal of dentistry in the...
I should
Seton
think
Hall
if Miss Mansukhani went out into general practice, she'd make a fortune.
Can't miss.
If she wore that outfit.
I was just thinking when you said that economically they would be richer, is it the gold fillings you had in mind?
No, I was just thinking of a chap who, was a salesman or something and had to do this. And get them all fixed. Miss Mansukhani, thank you very much. It's been wonderful to have you as a guest. Hope you enjoy your stay. And we'll meet tonight's mystery guest in just a moment, but first, here is a word from our sponsor. And now we come to the special feature of our program, the appearance of our mystery celebrity, for which, as I'm sure you all know as well as I do, the panel is blindfolded. Are the blindfolds all in place, panel?
Yes?
Yes, John.
Good. Will you enter mystery challenger and sign in, please? All right, panel, as you know, in the case of our mystery challenger, we go to the different form of questioning, one question at a time, in turn, moving clockwise, and we'll begin with Tony Perkins.
Are you currently appearing in a moving picture that is playing in the Broadway area now?
That's no. 1 down and 9 to go, Miss Francis.
Are you part of the entertainment world? Is that a what?
That's yes. Mr. Gabel?
Are you a woman?
That's yes. Miss Reynolds?
You're a woman. Are you in a field other than acting? Yeah, is it?
Yes.
Is that yes?
Yeah, that's yes.
Oh,
Miss
good.
Perkins?
Well, I'll be brief. Are you a singer?
Wait a minute. I've got to consult here for a bit.
No, she said.
Now, I think what we have to do here, Tony, if you will accept it, is give you a no, because our guest does sing, but not in a professional sense. Sings informally with friends and things like that. So 2 down and 8 to go, Miss Francis.
Now, just let me get this straight. Our guest is not in a picture that is playing at the present time and is not an actress. Is our guest an author?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Gabel?
Author?
An author. Is our guest, is the work of our author presently on Broadway?
No, that's 3 down and 7 to go, Miss Reynolds.
In this line of writing, is it in the, perhaps in the newspaper field or in a, well, let's say that. Is it in a newspaper field?
What do you want me to do, darling? Give it away.
I know who it is. It's Dorothy Kilgallen.
My dear girl, how are you?
I thought you were ill.
I was, but I recovered.
I thought you were south.
We're so glad to see you.
What a
glad to
nice
see you.
surprise.
Do you feel queer on that side?
Yeah, how does it feel over there?
She's
I'm
nervous.
so nervous, John's holding my hand.
Now, this is a wonderful thing about this program, and I've told this, I think, to you, Dorothy, you know, just talking in the dressing room. I think one of the big surprises of all the years that I've been doing it is the surprise I have tonight. Now, here's Dorothy, who for more than 10 years has sat on that panel and who is as used to this stage and this audience and the mechanics of the program as I am, but who, introduced as a mystery guest, is literally shaking, and I have to hang on to her hand. And
That's because she's sitting next to you. And she hasn't had that opportunity before on stage.
Thank you, Arlene. But this has happened so many times, you know, with people who've been stars of great magnitude in Hollywood for 10 or 12 years. And it's never been anything I could understand, because they come in, they'd sit and they would just shake. I'd hang on to them and they'd shake, and I'd have a little trouble being able to hang on myself. But now you can relax. It's all done.
Yes,
And it's
and
so
you might
good to
even
have you
sing
back.
for us, Dorothy.
I'm really not sufficiently recovered for that. I'll save that for another time.
Now, I must say that Dorothy sings at informal parties and has a lot of fun and is very competent, as those of us who sing in the shower and that sort of thing are. But we just had to stop it there and couldn't say that it was a professional singing, and Dorothy was the first one to
He'll
agree.
let Danny Kaye lie, but not me.
Nah, I wouldn't think of it. Wouldn't think of it. Well, it's wonderful to see you back again. And I must say, I think it was Martin who said we thought you were south. We do hope you'll go and have a vacation.
I am going to.
Much as we miss you. But don't stay away from us too long.
I'll be back.
Get back here real quick again. And we would have fooled you more if you hadn't gotten to this author business, Miss Dorothy. Wonderful to see you good and healthy again, and thank you, darling. Would you say good night to the panel? Well, that was good fun and a fine welcome back for Dorothy. And I must say, panel, you've done rather well tonight, except for dentistry.
Except for me.
Congratulations anyway, and we'll all be back after this word from our alternate sponsor. Well, now that we have Dorothy back with us, albeit the panel being surprised, may we all hope that Bennett is having a grand vacation down in the South Climes, and may we say that it's been very nice to have Debbie Reynolds and Tony Perkins with us. And it's always a joy to have Martin Gabel with us, and good night, Martin.
Good night, John. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Good night, Bennett, Phyllis, and Debbie.
Good night, John.
Good night.
Good night, Tony.
Good night, John. Good night, Arlene.
Good night. Good night, everybody. And you, John.
Well, thank you. Good night, Arlene, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being with us on What's My Line?
What's My Line is a CBS television network production in association with Mark Goodson and Bill Todman. Help Radio Free Europe broadcast free world truth behind the Iron Curtain. Send your contribution to the Radio Free Europe Fund, Box 1961, Mount Vernon, New York.